Good morning to you once again. This is Moses Sekala from the East African Institute of Learning. This time around, we are going to be looking at practical geography. With the practical geography, we are going to be mainly look at what does the practical geography contains. We shall be looking at around 4 units there. We shall be able to look at the overview of geography, landforms, and also we look at the features. But most importantly, we shall be looking at how the longitudes and latitudes, or what we call the tropics, are spread onto the globe. And we are going to be looking at latitudes, longitudes, and also the tropics. When we proceed below, it will be our first unit that we are going to be looking at. We are going to be finding out what are latitudes, what are longitudes, and what do we call the tropics. Most importantly, I think with the tropics, that's what we have not actually been aware of. Now, when we start, we are saying that we are going to be focusing on latitudes, and then we shift and also look at the longitudes. Mainly, when we look at the latitudes, these are marginal lines that run parallel to the equator. All these are lines that tend to be running from east to west. Or somebody can also say that these are imaginary lines that run parallel to the equator. In other words, they are what we call the major latitude. The major latitude is the equator. It's what we are saying, that they run parallel to the equator. And also they measure angular distance towards the north and also the south pole. Now, when you look at these latitudes, or the parallel drawn line to the equator, they play a vital role in terms of time, and also in terms of location. We are saying that these lines are at angular distance, or at angular degree of 90 degree. In other words, when you look at the equator at first, for it runs at or it is at an angle value of 0 degree. That is the latitude. When you look at the longitudes, mainly when you look at the longitudes, these are imaginary lines that tend to run from all the lines that run parallel to the Greenwich or the prime meridian. However, somebody can see that these are the marginal lines that tend to be running from north to south. But this level, we call them that for them they will be running parallel towards the green meridian or to the prime meridian. When we proceed, they are saying that they also have a degree, and the starting degree as 0 degree, where they are measured towards all around the globe. When you look at these lines, they say that the position of the prime meridian was determined by the international agreement to be in line with the location of the former astro observance at the Greenwich in England. So people found out all people came to be referring these lines as prime meridian. They were from England. So when you look at these lines, they are numbered, or the number of the degrees are found in a circle is just equivalent to 360 degrees. In other words, they run from 0 up to 360 degrees. They are saying that the prime meridian has a value of 0. From 0, they extend up to 360 degrees. they are saying that a line of latitude or meridian that is 40 degrees west has been an angle or has an angle of around 45 degrees west of the plane, represented as the prime meridian. We are going to be seeing a diagram or an illustration trying to show how those lines tend to be looking like. Now, when you try to see at angle 40, they are saying that point located, it is the angle 40, and that line is 40 degrees and so 40 degrees north and 30 degrees west in terms of location. So I think it can clearly show that it is running from the north to the west. And when we try also to see, we are seeing the other pole towards the northern pole, the north pole, that line which is marked 0 degrees, which tries to extend southwards also at 0 degree. And also we are seeing that imaginary line that I say that it starts at 0 degree, then it also extends up to 360 degree. So those are the imaginary lines we are trying to look at. When you proceed to the other diagram, it clearly shows how the angles are tried to be measured. That from the center, where you have that imaginary line or the equator, from the start it is always measured 30 degrees. When you try to move away from it, when you are trying to extend, it clearly shows how the degrees are measured. Now, when you proceed to what we call the tropics, they are saying that we have some parts that are known the tropics, and also we have those ones that tend to be called the temperate. These tropics, for them, they are regions that fall under what we call 23.5 degrees north and south of the equator, whereas when you look at the temperate, they are just above those two lines. The tropics that we are mainly talking about here, we talk about latitudes. They are saying that these coordinates are what. So when you look at the equator, the equator is that imaginary line to provide that runs around the center of the earth from the east to the west. That one we call it the equator. For it, it will be running from east to the west to the center of the earth. When you look at the equator, it has got or it is marked 0 degrees. Then we have those other lines that tend to be running next to them, but around or running parallel to the equator. Those are what we call the latitudes. They are saying that there are equal distances from the equator to the North Pole, and also from the equator to the South Pole. In other words, that each from the equator, when you measure the next degree, or when you proceed towards the South Pole, and also when you proceed towards the North Pole, the distance between those two, or between the equator and the North Pole, is just similar to the distances of the South Pole. So the distance between the two is just the same. When we proceed, they also talk about that the lines uniformly divide the north and the south hemisphere of the planet Earth. In other words, they are saying the equator divides the Earth into two equal halves. That is what we call the northern hemisphere and also the southern hemisphere. That is the equator that divides the Earth into two equal halves. Yeah, when we proceed below, they are saying that these lines of latitude run from east to west, parallel to the equator. They are used to define the north and the south position of the location of the planet. Major latitude lines, they are saying, include the equator, for it is labeled with 0 degrees. Then the northern pole, the North Pole, which is 90 degrees north. South Pole, it is also 90. Then you have what called the Arctic Circle. It is also measured 66 degree and 32 minutes north. And also Antarctic Circle, which is 66 degrees, and also 30 minutes. That is in the south. Then the Tropic of Cancer, that is 23 degrees and also 30 minutes north. Then the Tropic of Capricorn, for it is 23 degrees and also 30 minutes north. That is the Tropical of Cancer. When we proceed below, we have a statement there which says that the lines of latitudes run southwards and northwards. They are used to define the eastward position of the location of the planet. Then they are also saying that the lines they run perpendicular to the equator, and the latitude lines, in other words, they are referring to the above lines, that when you look at the equator and the other latitudes, that they run actually perpendicular to each other. When you proceed, they are also talking about the half of the longitudinal circle. It's what we call the meridian. That longitudinal circle, the halves, or the line that divides the earth from the North Pole to the South Pole, is known as the longitudinal circles, or what we can term as the Mediterranean. Those are what we call longitudinal lines. However, somebody also can say it is also the prime meridian or the Greenwich meridians. For them, they run north south and they divide the globe into two equal halves. The darker, we usually call them the dark hemisphere, the light hemisphere, and the darker light hemisphere. For them, they divide the globe into two halves from the north to the south, and they are also labeled with 0 degrees. For now, I beg we stop here. We shall be continuing from location or location of coordinates. That's where we shall be picking up. Look at how we can locate features onto a map, and also find out the location of different places on a map.